Awesome. Good morning. Thank you so much for coming. We have been so excited to share with you the stories that we gathered and the experiences that we had. And we appreciate you joining us on this delayed start. And then we have more to share next week because we have so much to share. We knew we couldn't just fit it into 1 week. So if you do not know me, I'm Erin Heilmeyer. I had the chance to go on the trip this year, and we have put together a presentation to just kind of usher you through what we experienced, and also maybe spark some interest in how we can continue to connect with our extended community in Kashasha and in that area. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. There we go. And Amy's going to share a little bit about our journey there because that was a story in itself.
So we had our journey and God had his journey. No doubt. So if you take a look at this map, this again, if you recall from last year, this was supposed to be our plan. This was what our itinerary, what we thought was going to happen. And then this is kind of just more of a blown up of once we got into Tanzania, kind of all those different stops and all those different airports that we got to visit or were supposed to visit. So our next slide was God's plan. We left here at Detroit, and if you remember, that was our very first big snowstorm. We got off, not a problem. We get all the way over to, as you can see, we left Detroit. We get over on the other side of Buffalo. Pilot comes on and says that there's a mechanical failure.
Just like that.
Yeah. No signal.
There we go. Yeah.
So what we ended up doing is going all the way back to Detroit, landing. He, kind of warned us that there would be, the fire trucks, but they prepare for this, they plan for this, they train for this, no worries. And I have to say, it's probably one of the smoothest landings that you would have never known it. We go back to Detroit, and then we have to we got a hotel room that the airport or the airline put us up for 2 hours. It was enough to take a shower, lay down, and turn around and get right back up. The funny part is at the hotel we saw the same staff because it was only 4 hours in between time. Then we left Detroit the next morning, went into JFK. We went into Nairobi, which was someplace we had never anticipated going to. A quick rush out of that, Nairobi, and then we finally made our way to Dar, and then all the way up to Mwanza, then Bukoba, and then we were able to finally get to Kashasha. So we missed a full day. This is one of the stories that we felt really compelled to share. Before we even left Delta in Detroit, we were checking in as a group, and this woman came out, the Delta worker, her name is Cynthia. She came out and she says, "What's going on? You guys are having so much fun. I just came out to find out what's going on." And so she introduced herself, and she's kind of, I don't even remember her title, but higher up in Delta, but very much part of customer service. So she wanted to hear about our trip. So we just started talking about what we were doing, and she was so engaged. She said, "Please reach out. Here's my business card. Anytime you guys need anything, we want to support mission trip work like this." She comes back and hands us all a deck of Delta cards, which, we probably needed by all the different travel. The God part of this is, should we have went? God kept changing our plan. When we were in the air with Buffalo, I had her contact. I was able to text her, and many of us didn't have internet service, which I don't know the rhyme or reason, other than God knew that Cynthia was going to get us to where we needed to go. I texted her on the airplane. She said, "When we land in Detroit, everybody's got to stay on the plane. Act like you don't know me. I'm going to come back and get you." So we land, we're at the gate, everybody's still seated. She comes walking back because I said, "We just want to give you a hug." She goes, No, do not act like you know me. She, in the meantime, when we were in the air, she was working on getting us another flight, a hotel, and getting us from point A so that we could get to Dar. She pulls me up front to the front of the airplane, and she had written down on a scrap piece of paper, here's your new flight itinerary. Is that okay? Well, sure. I mean, what are you going to do at that point? So she got us where we needed to go the very next morning. We fly out. We de-iced 2 or 3 times. We were going to be late, to the point where I was texting her the entire time, and she had reached out to JFK Airport to make sure we would be able to get from one gate to the next. When we flew out and actually got into Nairobi, she's texting to find out, did you make it?
Mhm.
She followed us the entire way, a complete stranger that God placed in our travel from the very beginning. So that is not a plug, but a plug for Delta. But since that and so after we came back, I said, who's your supervisor? Like, we wanted to be, and she goes, we're a team. It doesn't, it didn't matter. But she was very just humble about everything. She was so excited that she was able to help. So that's how we didn't even leave the United States, and God had already placed somebody in our travels. So, and then the next is Mary. We'll talk about Mary and Olga.
All right. Again, we haven't left Detroit. We are still in the Detroit airport. But this was after our 2 hours of our hotel. We had enough time to stop and have a nice breakfast. And God placed Olga in our midst once again. Actually, I think it was Sarah, because I think that was the only restaurant that was open. It did look. So Sarah just busted right into the kitchen and said, "Hey, are you open?" So thank you, Sarah. So here comes this sweet, adorable person. Probably looked at the 9 of us and said, "Oh no." I'm like, I haven't even had my coffee yet. She worked. So this was Sunday morning. So Saturday, she told us she worked a 20-hour shift because of all the delays because the government was shut down. So we had to deal with that. We had the weather, but she stayed and worked a 20-hour shift to make sure everybody on Saturday was fed and served. So Sunday morning comes around. Here we are, the team of 9, and you just saw her face. However, we started talking, we started laughing like we have laughed before, and she served us with the heart of gold and God in her. So we were able to be fed. We fed her with telling her our God story and our Jesus story. And thanks to Jeff, we gave her a golden cross, a wooden cross. Brought tears to her eyes. So again, just someone else that God placed in our midst, to show that God in our hearts is just overflowing for people like.
Thank you.
I've already got mine. Oh, you already got one. Sorry.
Just leave it there. Just maybe leave it there. Yeah. So we finally got there. So we left finally the United States on Sunday. Traveled all day Sunday into Monday. Took all those little. I guess we spent the night in Dar Sunday evening, and then Monday we ended up arriving in Bukoba, which is the larger city that you fly into, and then you drive to Kinshasa from there. And so we were met with so much joy from Moja and Wellington. And for me personally, I didn't really know Moja and Wellington. I remember being surprised they knew my name when we had done a Zoom call with them preparing, but to have them be so excited to see us and hug us, and it just was so great. So that was a lot of joy in that picture. And then our first day was spent in with the children of Kinshasa. And so Marlene is not able to be here with us, and I had actually nominated her to share this portion of the presentation, but she's not here. She has a new grandchild, so this is what I get for nominating her to talk about this. Yes, that is what she's in Florida. Wow. The things she'll do, yes. She also does have a new grandbaby, though. And so I will speak to this, but Marlene was such a great tool in this space because she has a history of being a principal, and she really connected with Veronica, who's pictured here beautifully. A lot of these pictures are AJ's pictures that he took, because she's the principal at Kashasha. And so she became a person to me again. You learn about these names and these characters, and it was so cool to get to know them personally. So this is Veronica, who we worked a lot with while we were there in Kashasha. So the house that we stay at is just right around the corner from the school. And so as we were walking around the corner, we see all the children and they just bombarded us. And those that had been there before, they just went right in, right? Like they were so excited to see those children again. They're seeking out familiar faces. And I thought, oh, these children just must know them from last year. That's so cool. They're running up to them. And then all of a sudden, a horde of them comes towards me and I'm like, they don't know. Again, they don't know me, but they seem very excited. And they were just so excited to see our group and to welcome us in. And I didn't really know what we were getting ourselves into. And it ended up being a dedication for the new classroom. And so we got to be a part of that celebration. And so any moment that we could, we were really silly with the kids. I don't know if the teachers and Veronica appreciated it, but they just had so much energy. And so, of course, we did a lot of OHIO, which you can see here. You can see Mary right in it. So they loved that. Some more, just again, they just would crowd around you. They loved my hair because it looked very different than what they have themselves. And they just want to be near you. And we're just so curious. And it just brought so much joy. And again, this is like moments stepping onto the property. So there's just no boundaries. You just accept their love and their excitement. So this is a great example of what one of their existing classrooms looks like. Wellington himself went to school at this very school. And so he, has made the comment, yeah? His dad, I'm sorry, went to school here, and he made the comment that these desks were probably used back then too. So these are the desks that they use. And then obviously very worn and dirty walls, the chalkboard, but they fill these with students, and this is the space where they learn. And we spend a lot of time in these rooms, really trying to think, how do we continue to help them improve these spaces that exist, and also embrace those new spaces that we've brought into their school as well. So then this is, in contrast, the brand new building that's been built as a classroom space for the students. And so quite a big difference. And we'll have some pictures of inside there as well in the presentation, but it is gorgeous. The view that you can kind of see peeking out there, this was something that was surprising to me, is that the school and the village itself is kind of set up on a mountain. And I was not expecting that. And the views are just breathtaking. And so to see the children playing in that yard and getting to experience the classroom in that space is really, really neat. You can also see a makeshift soccer goal over there. But I just love the details too, where they've added the pathway leading up. You can tell there was a lot of pride for the space. And that obviously made us really happy as well. So here's inside that classroom. It was beautiful. It felt light. It felt airy. Part of the ceremony, they brought us in with the parents, and that was so joyous. They're just so thankful to have this new space for their students. And we'll have a couple pictures of the students using the space as well. So during the actual dedication, they had all the children over here. They bring those big wooden desks outside, and they cram into those spaces. And we all sat and we got to listen to, the pastor. We listened to Veronica share. They had part of their school board there, just sharing about the importance, and also the importance of like the upkeep of these new spaces. So it was very neat to be a part of that. And then this was the pastor here doing a blessing at the door for the new classroom. And Wellington and Pastor Robin spoke as well to talk about, and then you can see Moja back there in the shade. Yeah, there's the only shade. Yeah. Yeah, it got real warm while we were sitting there. Those poor children, you could see one of them with like a sweater over their head. But they, welcomed Wellington and Pastor Robin to speak as well about our partnership. And that was really beautiful. And then this is the parents that were sitting there. So they had the students, they had us sitting, and then they had all of the parents there as well. And what a beautiful sight to see them also supporting this new, venture for their students, hearing from the leadership of the school and talking about the importance of it. That was really neat to see. And like I said, part of the program was going into the new classrooms with those parents. And it felt, again, I don't know what I was expecting, but the culture there, they're much more stoic, I would say. And so when we were in the classroom, I kind of was like, are they happy about this? What are those feelings? And then as soon as that program was done, they again swarmed us and gave us hugs and shook our hands, and just were so grateful for that space. And so it was it just felt, I felt so honored to just be there and represent you all who have put money and energy and time into helping this community. Yes.
During the dedication,
Yeah.
could you understand what was being said?
That's a great question. No. Yeah. So yes. So they primarily speak Swahili. And so Wellington would always situate himself near us so that he could tell us what they were saying. The same thing happened during the worship too. So he just kind of gives us a little like gist of it. And that was very interesting to me. The other thing that's very interesting is that the students are only taught really in Swahili. There's some English exposure, but not really something that's going to take off and have them conversationally speaking it. And in the homes, they're speaking Swahili. So anywhere we went where there were presentations, it was in Swahili. Yeah.
It's your communication between eyes and love.
Absolutely.
And
Yep.
all the same.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a really great point. Yeah, you could feel, like I said, it was at first a little confusing for me just because it felt a little bit more stoic. But then once that more formal ceremony was done, it was like, it felt very, very normal to me, right? What I'm used to. A great question. Yeah. So, oh gosh, the crosses were a hit. Oh my gosh. It felt like we didn't have enough anywhere we went, but then we also had plenty. So they absolutely love the crosses. We kind of had to hide them during the actual dedication because they became the focal point for the students. So we all had children all over us that whole time. And as soon as you would give one person a cross, then 4 more would come over, and then they'd hide them in their uniforms and they like for another one. So quickly we were like, okay, not now. So we like had to hide them in bags. And then at the end, we kind of got it down. Like I think I even learned how to untangle it. Like I just had to stay calm. And there was plenty for everyone, who wanted one that day. A great example of the new uniforms are here too, right? They looked, great, more uniform than they had been in the past. But it was beautiful to be able to give them something that meant so much to them in those crosses as well.
Thanks, Dad.
Oh, yeah, it was fantastic. They went crazy for him. So this is a picture of them getting lunch, because I know a lot of the efforts too have been into making sure that we're improving their lunch that they have in the day. Sometimes that might be the best meal they get of the day. And so a great example of them visiting the area where they get food. You can see the beans there. This was one of our favorite times to interact with them because they just eat out among the schoolyard. And so we always would try not to be too disruptive, but it was always fun when we got to interact with the students. And then a big part of the time that we were there was helping to get the library in a space that they would want to use it. Okay, I think leading up to us being there, there was a little bit of a hesitation of we don't really know what to do with these books. We don't know, what would be the best use of this. And so Cindy really led the efforts of making sure that we could get these books organized for them and kind of share with them a system that they could adapt to help if they want to have the students check them out. And so we worked on organizing them into categories that made sense. One whole section is all like young children books, lots of picture books. And then as we like kind of worked our way around the shelving, it kind of got to the more older children books and some adult books as well. It was kind of interesting being in that environment and seeing the different books that we had there for them. And it kind of made us laugh a little bit because some would not be incredibly relatable, right? But it's exposing them to new things. Again, they don't speak a lot of English, but we know that being exposed to those books and those words are going to help them even just a little bit understanding it a bit better. And so that was a great project to work through and to learn a little bit about, again, what our expectation was going in, and then how we adjusted it based on how we knew they would use the space the best in their culture. AJ, that was beautiful bringing him along. He's a big computer guy. He thought he retired, but we kept him going a little bit longer to learn about, what was the state of the computers that were there. Again, it was kind of overwhelming, we think, to the teachers and the community of how to use these computers, since it's not something that's common for them to have access to. And so he literally went from computer to computer, did a little bit of an assessment of, what is workable on this computer for them, what are some options for them to be able to use that technology. And we absolutely didn't plan on it really, but I mean, he went into high gear just trying to figure out what's the best way for them to use these machines. And again, I think it's like you go in with this expectation of like, oh yeah, they're going to be zooming around the internet, doing all kinds of things. And then you realize limitations of the internet, and you realize, again, language barriers. And so as the time went on, we started to adjust and say, okay, here's what these will really do for you. And here's ways that you can use them that make sense. And so I think that's an ongoing project of trying to figure out, what are ways to have technology there for them that is incredibly useful, not just for teaching, but even just connecting with the rest of the world. So it's a beautiful facility. It's light and airy, clean. And so, our hope is that more and more students will be in there on a more regular basis to utilize these things, and the more books that are coming on the storage unit as well. So here's a great picture of the children's. I know, isn't that so cute? Marlene really took the lead on this side of the room. I feel like she knew what it should look like. She tasked me with picking out certain books so that we can have it set up. But it really was such a welcoming space by the time that we were done, and knowing it was kind of in an organized space for them, even if they didn't understand, the full system of checking them out. One of the highlights for me was getting to read to the students too. Like I said, we came to realize that they hadn't yet had tons of exposure with the books that had been in the library. And so on our final full day there, we went out during lunch and we just brought a handful of books each and just found groups of students to read with. And then the teachers would stand with us and help us try to translate a little bit. And it was just so fun and silly. And it was definitely the highlight of my time with the students there. And so you can see Marlene, and again, that beautiful vista and her reading with the students. And then I think we have a video of Amy with the students too.
This little finger on my right. Here is the beehive. Where are the bees? Hidden away where nobody sees.
Isn't that so cute? It just brings a smile to your face. And again, like, it was fun to connect on those simple things. And sometimes I forget what it was. Oh, snow. I think I had snow in my book, and I was like, I don't know how to explain snow. But it was so fun. So one of the things that we encouraged while we were there was, keeping not just the newer buildings, but all their buildings clean. It's hard because some of the buildings, their windows don't even have panes, right? It's just an open window. So there's constantly dirt coming in, school kids coming in and out. And so we, try to help them understand the importance of, taking care of the spaces and making sure that they stay clean. And so these are pictures actually from after we visited that Veronica sent us to show the children kind of engaging in the cleaning process. And part of this also came from, and I think it's probably fine to start the story of a woman that we met while we were there. And so let me try to do this in a coherent way. So the very first day we were there, after the dedication ceremony, after the water tank ceremony, which you'll hear about probably next week, we were walking along the road and a girl showed up to talk to the principal, and she was wearing a Hakima uniform. So Hakima is the girls' school that is not located in Kashasha. It's actually a little bit of a ways away. So it was a little out of place to see one of the girls in her Hakima outfit there in Kashasha. And so we noticed that she was having a conversation with Veronica, the principal. And when we got back to the house, we learned that she had been turned away from Hakima because she couldn't make payment. So she is one of the girls that is supported by St. Mark's, but there is a small sum of money that families still need to pay for like uniform and things like that. And her parents had gone through a divorce and they couldn't come up with that money. So she was turned away. And we also knew they're in the midst of their national exam. So to imagine the stress that girl was under, it broke our hearts. And so we got to thinking and we were like, what is a way, like, we're happy to help. How can we get this girl back to school? And we thought about the need that we saw at the school to help with some cleanliness and just make sure that the classrooms each day were just taken care of. And so we thought, what if we met with her mom and said, we will put our money together and pay for that difference so that she can go back to school. And if you wouldn't mind coming to the school and providing some of your time to help keep the classrooms clean and teach some cleaning activities for the children and the other teachers. And so the rest of the day, we went about our day. We went and saw a few other areas in Kashasha. We ended up at the clinic. And while we were at the clinic, here comes the principal with the girl's mom. And myself and Marlene and Wellington, because we needed Wellington to translate, shared that proposal with the mother and said, listen, it breaks our heart that she's unable to go to Hakima, and we think that she should, but we would love to, propose this idea. And so once Wellington was able to explain it to her, she agreed. And so we've received some updates since we've been there because they were off school, kind of like we have a winter break, and they've gotten back into session. And so this is a result of the woman coming and helping to kind of provide some guidance for cleaning. And then it also in turn made it so that her daughter could go back to Hakima. So that was day one. that blew my mind. When everybody asked me to talk about this trip, I'm like, I can't even fit it all in, because when I think about all that was done during that first day, it was beautiful. And so we're really excited to see that has carried through. And we hope that will continue to be something that they do moving forward. Here they are learning in the brand new classroom. Isn't that beautiful? It looks so great. And so that's exciting to see. We've got lots more pictures that Veronica had shared with us as well, if you're interested in seeing. And then we just got an update last week, I think. So if you're friends with Moja on Facebook, she shares some pictures, and it sounds like a friend of hers was moved by seeing the pictures and felt called to provide funding for the students to all have new shoes. And so they came and had them all lined up, and this is them getting their shoes measured for their brand new shoes. And so what a gift for those children to be able to have that moving forward. I thought I had one more pic. That was a sneak peek. This is, I guess, I thought I had one more picture in here, but you can also see in the background there, some of them have their sweaters on, and they now have emblems of the school on their sweater as well. So that's also something new to help update the uniforms that were provided to them recently as well. So they look real sharp. Another thing I learned too as we were traveling around in the country is that this is a common thing, and each of the schools have their own colors and their own outfits that they wear for schools. And so I think there's a lot of pride in, wearing that outfit of Kashasha. Any questions at all about the primary school in Kashasha? Yeah.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, what was the difference made up for that?
I think it was like 125 US dollars. Yeah. So again, to us, to most, right, that's a small amount. And we even ended up all chipping in. But you know, it was just a good example for us to show, you know, how different the dollar is there.
I think we each put in a bid, which is about,
Like, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Do you have a
So
question?
this school is run by the government, correct?
That is correct.
And
Yes.
the Hakima is a pay to attend school.
Yep, that is correct. Yep. So the question was, this school is a public school. And so they're given some resources, right? We learned a lot about, you know, teachers and how they get placed in the schools. There's how many teachers? 5 teachers. Government will pay for 5 teachers. And I think like any given day, a couple of them are gone to help with testing. And so you'll have classrooms of students with no teacher in there. And they kind of just go, the teacher goes to another area and teaches. Yeah, 300 kids, 5 teachers. They stay after with the children. We would see that too. There was like some tutoring happening after school. So it's a lot. And those teachers take on a lot too. And so we had some good discussions we actually brought together some members of the school board, the teachers, the principal, one of the evenings, and kind of shared a little bit about, you know, what we've seen and what we're so happy about and what we want to continue to help support them, and the support that they need for their teachers. AJ had a chance to meet with the staff to talk about the computers and share some things that they could do. Yeah, please. I'm sweating up here. AJ.
Yep. And just a brief update on that. As of last week, I believe, the students have had their first actual hands-on computer experience in the Hiltner Center. We've got the computers up and running. The internet situation in Africa is very different than it is here. So unfortunately, one of the things we discovered is some of the online tools that maybe we hoped we could provide them with aren't going to work quite yet. So actually spoke with Moja yesterday. Marlene and Cindy and I and a few of other colleagues in education reviewed some software, found some things that can be installed directly from a disk, don't require the internet, that support curriculum for students from 3 through 10. She is going to be having that installed in that room this coming week. And the nice thing about this software is that it supports teaching them some early English, and supporting math and some of those other things is a big thing. But this particular software has internationalized language, so they can use it in Swahili or in English. So they can use it in Swahili in their native tongue to reinforce those basic computer skills, getting comfortable and familiar with the computers, working on math, working on grammar, working on all these kind of things, and also then switch it to English when they want to reinforce that, or maybe for the older students. And one of the ongoing things that we're going to do there as well is working with Wellington and Moja to try to stabilize that internet situation so that we can then evolve into using things like Khan Academy or some of the good online tools for the older students, and also then make that room and those computers a resource for the community so that people can come in and can do some word processing or can learn additional things. So
Awesome.
just a little bit of an update on that.
That's awesome. They also got the printer working while we were there.
Kind of.
Oh. I saw a printed paper. Okay. Yeah.
The elementary school, in our language, how far in education does that go? I know Hakima
Mhm.
is for the girls for a higher education, but when they're done here, if they don't have the money to go somewhere else, they're finished.
Yeah, so this goes till about, I would say, like what we would say is 8th grade, and then secondary school would be like what we would think of as high school. What we're able to do is to get, a good chunk of women to Hakima. We did learn, some students will go to other secondary schools. There are some like public ones in the area, mostly the men. But outside of that, there aren't great options. And so, teaser for next week, more to come. We did get to visit another option for students that we got really excited about. But yeah, and a big thing, and I talked about it just a little bit ago, things are taught in Swahili. There's some exposure to English. Hakima is taught in English. So their first year, they really work on building their English skills before they then really focus on the subjects that they need to learn. And so while we were there, at least for me, it became really, really important for us to have tools like the computers and like the library to just expose those students even more. So that way they have a little bit of an advantage once they get to the secondary school, because it'll be a major shift for them if they're not.
Second language.
Right. Exactly.
We're not trying
Well,
to make them.
And they have a second language, which puts them so much further ahead than any other students in their area, because they don't have those resources. So it really gives them, Moja will post about the drones,
Mhm.
and we're like, drones, but that puts these students and educates them to a much different nuance that they wouldn't normally have.
Mhm.
So it's just something different for them to kind of hang their hat on and continue with.
I think one other thing culturally that Moshe and Wellington shared with us is that while Swahili is the primary language, most of the governmental affairs and business is conducted in English. So if you're from the outlying areas and you don't have that exposure to English at all, you're at a disadvantage at trying to get a better job or to participate in your own government. So it's more than just a skill or a second language. It's an empowering tool, I think, to get them started earlier with English. So that's an important thing.
When does the ship container arrive?
We'll talk about the container next week. Does that answer your question, Lee?
I'll be back.
Good.
So really quick, before Erin turns to Hakima, a big difference in this school is those uniforms. Those children, the parents feel so empowered just by having a sweater that doesn't have holes and it's draping. They feel important. They feel like they're worthy of getting an education. Another thing is the food. Attendance now is almost 100%. There are, when Erin talked about students being in another building waiting for the teacher, it's because they don't want to miss the meal. And so they're willing to come and be there all day long so that they can get that food in them. And to see, for those from last year to this year, their cheeks are fuller, just to see the health in them. So, and not to mention their grades have just skyrocketed. So just having a food every single day has just been a game changer, along with their pride in the uniform. So to top that off, to have brand new shoes for everybody, it is just the lives that are being changed by St. Mark's and the community here is just immeasurable.
When you came back and showed the gruel that they were
The ugali, yeah. I mean, and they, you should have seen them eat. And of course, the spoons are in the container, but they didn't matter. They absolutely loved. And just to show how grateful they are. And sorry, Mike, I'm sharing your little story, but we were in sitting down and just reading, like Erin said, during lunch, and Mike's little buddy, he came over and sat beside him, and he's like nudging Mike, and he was trying to share his food with Mike. They just, it's heartbreaking, but it's not. They're so prideful and they're so loving and so caring. So being able to supply some rice and beans and sugar and honey has just been game changing for them. So again, thank you.
And we had ugali. It was not great. Pastor Ken has a question really quick. Yeah, sorry.
You say something about the school day, length of time. Is it 5 days a week? Is it every day of the week?
That's a great
how much
question.
of the year
Yeah.
is involved in
So
education?
they do go 5 days a week. From our understanding, they do a staggered start. So again, because of the small staffing, they have some students come in delayed, and so that way they don't have all of them there at once typically. And then they do have, like, the winter break felt long, so it sounded like it was going to start right after we left, which was right around our Thanksgiving. And they didn't start back up until January, like into January, because we were kind of like, why don't we hear any updates? And they're like, because everybody's not at school. So they had a little bit longer of a break, and then they'll have a summer break as well, from my understanding too. So similar to.
And I just wanted to add that they're getting vegetables in their food because of the garden and the greenhouse that Wellington and Clyde Singh worked on. And the plan is that as that garden produces more and more, that they will be self-sustainable with the food in time.
Absolutely.
So that's exciting. And I know bean harvest was just lately,
Mhm.
and Motion Wellington had a garage full of beans drying.
Oh, nice. Yeah, the food I mean, again, there's just so much to share, but that was another thing that we learned, that, many of these families wake up and they don't know what they're going to eat that day, or they know it's limited to what they can harvest themselves. And so that was really eye-opening as well, as somebody who, tries to meal plan for the week and, has access to be able to get those goods. There just isn't that there. And so ugali is actually a pretty common thing for families to just eat, and, just day to day. And so to have some variety for them is wonderful. So, yeah.
Are they fed during their breaks?
That's a really good question. I don't know if there's meals during the breaks. Yeah.
No, and that's a great question, because we just talked to Motion Wellington about that, and that is something hopefully down the road that with all the crops that they harvest on the school grounds, that they can maybe do some kind of program, even like how Bowling Green City Schools have some kind of summer food program, that they'd be able to start that, because typically no, the kids aren't there, whether that's they come and volunteer their time to help harvest, to help pull weeds, whatever that might be. And then in turn, they might be able to have some food for the summer. But that is another goal I know Motion Wellington would like to do down the road, is somehow make sure these kids still have food over the summer and during the winter break.
Awesome. I think we still have enough time to get through Hakima, would you say? Awesome. So there's Mike. Woo! I saw him dance quite a bit on this trip, actually. So we'll talk about Hakima. As we've mentioned, Hakima is the girls' secondary school that St. Mark's helps to scholarship women from Kashasha to be able to go to this school. It's a boarding school, so they go and they live there. And they were very welcoming in bringing us into the space and sharing with us the classroom spaces, the bunk rooms, their gardens, their livestock. And so here I wanted to share a few things through that experience. So first we'll start off when we arrived. This is the welcome that we got. Part of the welcome. That was me getting taken away into the dance circle. I thought I was safe by being the recorder, but 2 spots I got pulled in while I was videotaping. So they welcomed us in this huge auditorium, and they had them organized by youngest to oldest. And they sang songs, and they had a DJ, and like anytime we would say something, they'd be like pew pew pew, and like all the girls would like go crazy. It was so much joy in that space. It was overwhelming. My cheeks hurt from smiling. We had Pastor Robin speak, and that was awesome. And then we got some time with smaller groups. So we had some time with the teachers and got to learn the different disciplines that they taught. And then they actually started asking us questions. Like we were educators ourselves, and some of us are. But that was really interesting. It was almost like a little workshop with their teaching staff. And then we also got to spend time specifically with the women from Kashasha. So that's what this group is. These are the women that are from Kashasha and now go to Hakima. And it was a great time to spend with them because we felt that personal connection. We had met some of their moms prior to going to Hakima since it was a little bit later in our trip. We could see Veronica's daughter, like it looks just like her. So we picked her out. The girl that we helped out with that extra money is in this picture. One of them is the niece of Luda, who was one of our helpers throughout the week to drive us where we needed to go. So it felt like just as you do at a St. Mark's gathering, there's lots of things in common and people that together. And they shared with us what they want to be when they grow up. One of them, where is she? She wants to be a pilot. Oh, right there. She was wonderful. She was like the group leader for sure. And so it was so cool to have that connection with this very specific group of those women at Hakima. And then when we were done with our time with them, they did this really, really cool thing. For a second, where they would go like this all together, and then they would shower blessings on us. And so that's what they're doing there. And that was it was such again, it was not the same, we may not speak the same language primarily, but that felt so wonderful. And they were so respectful. I think I was like, loosen up a little bit. Like they were so serious because I think they just understand the weight of the donation that St. Mark's provides them, that they just didn't want to mess up. And we kept being like, who's goofy in the group? Like, who do you hang out with? And they just were so wanting to show their gratitude and be on point for us. But this moment was just beautiful and something we're like, we gotta take that back with us. So here are some of their gardens that they have, where they grow all kinds of crops. I mean, lots and lots of different things there. So they walked us through that. Again, a beautiful scene. This is the, what was her name? Sister Caroline. She is the head of Hakima Girls Secondary School. She is new. She was not in that role last year when the group went. And so it was lovely to get to meet her. And she is amazing. She is a strong woman leader. And she has really great expectations for the women at this school and some really good dreams of how she wants to even make it a better experience for them. So that was really cool too, to make that personal connection and see that, they're really on a great path to continue to be a fantastic place for women to learn and have access to education. Oh, and that was it of Hakima. I thought I had a few more pictures in there. Other things that we saw while we were there were some of the classroom spaces, so looking very similar to the ones in Kashasha. It was actually a Saturday, and since we were in the midst of their national exams, they were actually in classrooms learning and studying. We saw their space where they had their sewing class. We saw a space where they have baking we'll have baking with a donation of an oven. They had science rooms with like all kinds of skeletons and frogs in jars. Did not include that on here. They had lots of animals. We saw their big like dining hall. Everything just neat as a pin. And you can tell they take a lot of pride in the school there as well. So it's a fantastic place for women to have that opportunity. It made me so proud to be associated with this group and to be able to see it, and bring it back here to share with you all. So any questions about Hakima? Yeah, Kathy.
How reliable is electricity? Are they able to store things like in freezers and refrigerators?
Yeah, that's a great question. So electricity is there. We experienced where like it would just go off for a little bit, just for no reason, or there might be a storm. I would believe there's probably some refrigeration at Hakima, just based on the food that we were served there, but probably not a lot. Just as simple as like the toilets there were not anything advanced. So, it was more primitive than I thought it would be, but still a really lovely space for the women to be. So they probably have some refrigeration, but probably not a lot.
Kathy, in the village, there's none.
Mm-mm.
I mean, they just can't afford that. And electricity, most places don't have electricity.
Mm-hmm.
So it's no freezers, no refrigeration.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Of a school.
the school, the primary school does not have no electric, they have electricity for lights, but that's if you have electricity. Yeah, the Hilger Center has electricity with the computer, but that's again if they have.
So Motion Wellington have a generator. Not a lot of people do, but some of us stayed out in the little cottages on their farm, and when the electricity went out, we had no electricity. Let me tell you, it's dark.
It's dark.
No street lights.
Yeah.
Nothing. So
Yeah.
you have your flashlight.
We were also very thankful for any water that we got out there because the first day there was no water. But Wellington made a few calls and paid the village electricity bill so that we could have water, which was $11. So. Yeah, so that was, I remember like, again, in preparation for the trip, it was like, well, be okay with cold showers, and all that. But it's definitely a new experience when you're there, but so worth it. I mean, it was fine.
We were praying to the shower guy.
We were praying to the shower. That was when I about broke. When it was just coming out, just dripping. And, and you're out in like the dirt, like, yeah, that was where I was like, I don't know about this.
Go again?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I mean, like if I could go every year, I would. My goal, I would love to go with my boys. I would love for them to see it and experience it. There was one specific young lady that I think is in a future slide, Lillian, whose two sisters are at Hakima. I was like, if I time it just right, maybe I'll get to be there when she's going off to Hakima. Like, so I expect that I will definitely be back there in some way, with or without Eric. But yeah, Blake was already bowling me today. He's like, when are you going to take me? I think I'm old enough. So,
So after next week, at the end of all this, then we're brainstorming again of what we can, what our next step is.
Yep, absolutely. So really encourage you to come next week. The topics we'll cover then are kind of some new things that we learned while we were there. We'll talk a bit about the water tank, which is something that many of you are already well versed in, but some of the new experiences we were able to have and has sparked some ideas for us of how do we continue really intentional giving and support of Kashasha and the surrounding area. And so I think that'll be exciting for you all, because I know many of you have seen these updates and this progression, and that's exciting to see that evolution. But I do think there's a few new things too that you might be interested in as we've learned more and more about the culture and the community and what their needs might be.
Do we see the health center?
We do. Yep. So next week you'll see the dispensary. You'll see a couple of field trips that we went on with the diocese to see other locations. The water tank will be in there. We'll talk about worship as well, which is an experience too. So a little bit more variety than today's presentation.
Is the container anywhere close yet?
Mike?
It's in Tanzania.
The container is in Tanzania. Yeah, and that honestly too, and we'll talk about that next week, it's been a blessing, we think, for it to have a little bit of a delay, so that we can kind of, intentionally know how to inculcate those items into their culture, because that's going to be a lot for them to handle at once.
You would have missed a lot of
Yes.
opportunities if you and the container would have arrived at the same time.
Yep.
Because the focus would have all been on the container.
Absolutely.
And not.
Yeah. That is very true. Yeah. Yeah. This did give us some more time to, again, get to know them a bit better and see where they're at now a year, after the first visit. So
that's why they didn't associate you with Santa Claus.
yes, exactly. Yeah. I mean, the way they lose their minds about the crosses, I don't know what they're going to be like when we bring out spoons and sewing machines.
Right.
Yeah. Well, wonderful. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you so much for providing me the opportunity to go. It was absolutely life-changing. If you ever want to hear more or see more pictures, I've got a ton more myself specifically. But we hope to see you next week, and feel free to ask questions too as you see us out and about. So thank you.
Thank you.